Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian, and this is my Destiny 2 New Light Getting Started guide. This takes place in the world of Beyond Light, the latest expansion that has dropped for Destiny here in November of 2020. So if you're watching this in the future, hello! You might want to check the top link in the description below for the Destiny playlist to see if there's any updated guides. Now, I've put out multiple guides that are actually still relevant, so if you guys want to check out any of those videos, just hit the top link in the playlist below for more information and Destiny 2 content. Welcome to the game, by the way. Let me hopefully be the first person to say I'm so happy that you're checking this game out. And as you should know, this game is completely free. So if you're just using this video as an evaluation, trying to decide if you should go and download this game, honestly, I recommend it highly. If you don't like it at the end of the day, that's totally cool as well. It's all about having as much fun as possible, and I think the best way to experience that is to jump in yourself. But if you've already done that and you're just completely lost, trying to figure out what to do, it's my hope to help explain the systems, the information, and give you what you need to know so that you can have the best time with Destiny, whether you buy any of the expansions or if you're playing this game through Game Pass. It's important to note that on the Game Pass side of it, you have access to the full game sans the season pass. Destiny has a couple of models going on for monetization, so let me go ahead and show you the first and foremost one. We're going to just jump in over here to the store, and you can kind of see the different expansions that they have available right now. You have Shadowkeep, Forsaken, and the latest one, Beyond Light. Having all three is going to open you up to a lot of different content in this game itself, but it is not required that you purchase them in any specific order. Destiny as a whole is kind of served a la carte, and that's a plus and a minus in my opinion. Now, beyond the purchasing of things, you have the season pass, and you can see here on this account that I'm using as a way of making sure that I am testing out the game just like you would experience it. The season pass itself, I do not have on this character, and thus this bottom row is locked. Consider this some kind of type of battle pass in a way if you've seen those kind of systems, and the top row is available to you. And then as you go up, obviously the top row gets less and less and less appealing, and obviously the bottom row is going to give you rewards all the way up to 100. When it says it's 1,000 silver, that is basically the cost of $10. There are collection editions that includes this season and other seasons throughout this year, which a season typically lasts a couple of months, 3 months in this case, 82 days and 23 hours to go. And so with all of that, just be prepared that there is that additional way you can engage in the game itself. But we've got a lot to talk about, especially as it relates to the game. Destiny 2 Beyond Light, New Light, geez Louise, thank you Bungie for making this very fun to say at least, starts you off on the Cosmodrome. And when you get out into the game, you're going to have a traditional quest to follow. So it is my recommendation that you follow that quest through and, just however you want to rock and roll it. Now, when you get the quest itself, if you see here, if I hold down the select button, I go over to the quest tab, you're going to see the different quests that I have acquired up to this point. By following the quest line, you're eventually going to unlock what's called a Spark of Hope. Spark of Hope is going to be where it opens up more, and going and talking to everybody in the tower is going to open up both the Crucible bounties, the PvE bounties from Zavala, and also the Gambit bounties. I'll show you guys that here in just a second. But note, whenever it switches to this wonderful yellow color, this becomes an exotic quest. And you might be asking yourself, Brian, you're talking above my head. I apologize. So note that you'll see quests of a wide range. And Destiny at its core is actually an RPG. So while it does have that shooting element, and it is a shooter, it has that action element that you will probably find very, very appealing and very satisfying. There are some times that in its mission structure, which can easily get lost, you might lose track. And thus you want to make sure you press A on any of these items. So if I just click A on this, I am now tracking these two items. So under your director, which you can hit just by opening director or hold down the select button or back button in this case, you'll now see that I am tracking two different quests, and it will now help guide me as best as it can to a way into the world itself. So if I just kind of click on the EDZ, I can see the map of the EDZ, and I can see that this is flashing for that quest itself that I am tracking. If I press A on any of these objects, it's going to tell me the best location to jump into, which these also serve as fast travel zones. So here in this case, it would want me to go here because that is the star. I can also see a couple other things going on, some public quests on in the area. I can also see these little symbols, which are called lost sectors. They're going to basically be these little mini dungeons that you can do on repeat for gear. Lots of fun things, different treasures and other things to find and explore as I run around the world itself. The EDZ is left over from the original Destiny 2, which essentially just lost and had a massive content change. So if you were wondering, if you watched my previous video and you're wondering where are things, why does everything look different, note that this is almost in a way a Destiny version of 3, especially considering that it is Destiny 3.0. Now here under these different playlists, you have a bunch of different content. You have your PvP content in the Crucible, which I am tracking, and it says it wants me to go into Control to focus in on that quest again. So jumping back into quests, I can see what it wants me to do, and it says it wants me to do 2 controls and complete 1 bounties. This is where I get tripped up even to this day, being a longtime Destiny veteran. If you're looking at your quest, sometimes it is not super clear as what you need to do, or you might think that, hey, I just need to do 2 controls, but you miss out on the bounties. So the best thing to do at this point in the guide is let me jump us into the tower and let's talk about progression, and let's go ahead and focus in on the different vendors and what a bounty means, because it's ultimately the most important thing. You don't, again, have access to this right at the start. You have to follow that Sean Han main quest line, and once all of that is knocked out, you're going to be brought back into the tower, and there's a few things that you really need to focus in on and get done. Okay, so now that we're in the tower, there's a couple NPCs that I do want to point out to you really quick. Over here on the left-hand side, you're going to find your mailbox, in which that you can pull any items that drop. So if something ends up falling off of a cliff, don't worry, the tower is going to have it for you when you come back. But be sure to always be checking your mailbox to make sure that you don't end up losing out on any different things here. Now, over here, Commander Zavala is going to allow you to talk to him and pick up a couple of different bounties. It's at this point, I think it's real. We need to have a conversation about what bounties are and what progression is. So bounties, you have 2 that are a part of what are called your weeklies. You can grab these for just a very small amount of glimmer, the in-game currency. And then you also have what are called daily bounties that expire after 24 hours. Now, this third kind of random bounty, you'll see that overall, these daily bounties are 250, your weeklies are 1,000, but these random bounties are 3,000 glimmer. So if you got glimmer to burn, which the current glimmer cap is at 250,000, yeah, sure, pick up a couple of random bounties if you want, especially if you only have a little bit of time and you want to knock out your progression for the week, because as you go ahead and level and as you unlock the different bounties, you're going to unlock powerful gear via these vendors themselves, as well as the Gambit one. And if you guys need to see any of my previous videos, note that they'll change to a blue color. Knocking out 8 bounties each and every week for them is going to drop you some powerful gear. And I think it's only fair that if I go and talk about the power level in the game right now, just so I don't overly confuse you guys when I get into the concept of progression. Your power level is accumulation, and that's a fun word for me to fail on, of all of your gear that you have. Now, your gear that is set here is based off of these values as well as your seasonal artifact. And to unlock this, we have to go talk and get a message from Osiris and Zavala's thing, and I'll go ahead and show it to you guys in a second. Anyway, that's the best content ever from a YouTuber. So in this case, you can hold down the right trigger and see kind of a comparison of your gear. You don't actually have to have the gear equipped to have it roll for that slot. So on the right hand side, you can see this is 1075. And let's say for some reason I want to hold on to this because I had certain perks on that gear, then essentially it's still going to roll when gear drops for that 1075 that I have slotted here. Now, the other thing I want to point out to you is that if you look at the total value in your stat points, you'll see different stats offer different values. This piece of gear not only has more power, but it also has more stats. And changing that obviously updates my stats. And what do stats do? Well, you have mobility, which is going to increase your base movement speed. You've got resilience, which is going to increase your base life, basically your shield capacity, and just make you live longer. You have recovery, which is going to help you recover faster. You're going to have your discipline, which is going to help reduce your grenade cooldown. You're going to have intellect, which is going to increase your super ability cooldown. And then you have your strength, which is going to increase your melee ability cooldown. So that just makes everything faster. So the higher these things go, the better they are. But what's really important about these stats for you to know is that 41, that's 1 point that is wasted. You only really get the stat boost every tier as opposed to just a flat out 41 is better than 40. In this case, 40 and all the way up to 49 are the same value. So ideally, if you really want to try to min-max, which really isn't important for like just the base content of the game, you're going to end up having a good time. So just kind of make sure you kind of have a mental math of that in that regards. So obviously equipping higher power gear ends up increasing my overall power level, and just take a look at what those different things do. If you ever want to go in and start playing around with the armory system itself, you can go in and start slotting in different values, which the point in the upper right hand corner will tell you how much energy it's going to cost. You can upgrade all of this gear, but I would recommend that as you level up in the game that you don't really mess around with like overpowering that gear too much, because you do have to pay attention to the gear's seasonal power cap. There's a seasonal power cap, and ultimately there is essentially a full-on cap in which that gear can no longer get any higher. And you can see the seasonal power cap is at 1260. This is important because there's a couple of different caps in the game. Right now on this new character, I am at 1068. That's fantastic. The seasonal or soft cap starts at 1200. So you're going to play the game, and no matter what you do, if I just pull up the destinations map, whether I'm doing Crucible, Gambit, Vanguard, story quests, different things on the EDZ, no matter what I'm doing, the game's going to drop gear, and it's going to push me to the soft cap of 1200. From here, I can only progress through 2 more tiers of power outside of my artifact, and again, we'll cover that in a second, which that will take me up to 1250, which is the soft cap. So when you talk about progression, anything that says it rewards powerful gear in the game is going to feed me up to that 1250. From 1250 to 1260, the only thing that will progress you further in that loop is pinnacle gear, and different activities are going to reward that. To give you kind of a taste of that here as a new player, something you don't necessarily have to worry about too much. Whenever you see the sun symbol here, the sun star, that's going to be telling you there's an activity there that will reward gear, that will advance you on your way. So just kind of pay attention to what that means in that regard. So just kind of pay attention to these suns. Once you hit the soft cap of 1200, you're going to start to see these things open up with more stars, and more star activities will open up for you. So that way you can progress further in this game. All right, let's go take a look at Zavala's office, and I'll show you the artifact. So running down here and taking the elevator will bring you to Zavala's office. You want to come talk to this machine, in which that will reward you with your artifact. This is important because this is another progression method which is going to reward you additional power for just grinding out XP. Plus, it's going to open up additional modifiers that you can spend as you level up to 12 different points. So these modifiers usually are much cheaper to slot into any of your armor, and thus are usually generally much more preferred. And with that, now as I gain experience, I'm going to go ahead and continue to gain power that is now attached into my power light level. So note that this is just, you don't need to actually purchase the season to have the artifact, but go and grab this as soon as you can and play from there. Now, ultimately, I have covered multiple times like progression levels, different ways to power up your level and get that experience. All of that is technically still relevant. So I want to spend a little bit more time right now talking about what do you do once you've finished the new light campaign. So really talking to our new players out there. And again, you guys, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I personally really enjoy PvP. That's kind of my main thing. So typically you'll find me in PvP activities. However, once you pretty much go and talk to everybody in the tower, once you finish that and you get to that quest line that is gold, you can still continue to follow these quest lines and enjoy the content, but also pick up any and every quest that you can find, especially as it relates to unlocking different builds for your character. And so you can kind of see here, I have not unlocked fire or void energy on this specific character. So you want to focus in on these quest lines to open up different build options for you to play around with. Now, as you play, if you have purchased any of the different expansions, Shadowkeep or Forsaken, you're going to open up what's called this third tier. So you can see that I have access to this because I have those expansions. But if you haven't purchased anything, you're only going to have the bottom and top tier. They're going to play around in your build. Again, check the top link because there really isn't any changes there. And hopefully we'll see that, because as we play around with stasis, it really gets exciting to see the different build opportunities. So back into the content itself, I would put you on learning and hitting and making sure you're tracking these different quests and seeing what they do for you. Now, here's my advice from essentially a gamer and somebody who has limited time to enjoy games like immensely. First and foremost, if it's something that you end up don't like, if you don't like PvP, don't do PvP. If you don't like PvE, don't do PvE. Just find the ways and the things that you find fun about this game and find those quests that kind of tie into that. Then as you progress, you're just going to, as you PvP, PvE, the game's just going to feed you plenty of gear. And ultimately, if you're just here kind of for the story, well, then just play through the story that's available and wait to see for updates in the future. Staging your Guardian, and all Guardians start at 1050, it doesn't necessarily have a lot of value. So if you're sitting here saying, hey, I played through the new light stuff and maybe I'll jump into the Beyond Light stuff, that's cool. Do that. Have fun, dominate as much as you can, and then take a break and come back in a year, because there's going to be a new expansion. They're going to buff all your light stuff, and then you can keep playing. The other thing you can do, I'm just going to knock out and complete these bounties for massive amounts of experience and materials. The other thing you can do in the game itself is that if you hit start and then you're here on your page, as you play, you're going to unlock triumphs, which is kind of like your achievement score, but then you also have collections. You can start to go and try and hunt for different weapons and things like that to unlock. Playing around with the exotics are ways that you can really help have interesting builds for your character. Now you can see here, I don't have any exotics on this character, but an exotic will allow you to equip one yellow weapon on this slot and then one yellow piece of armor on this slot, which will give you unique traits and perks that will make everything more interesting in the ways that it plays. The other thing that you really want to pay attention to is that we talked about not spending or leveling up your armor right now, especially as you grind up in power level, because otherwise you're just going to burn resources. But one of the things you want to jump in here do and play around with your ghost shell. Your ghosts can now level up, and you can see here I can just go ahead and feed them different materials that I've already collected while playing, and I'm going to go ahead and push this all the way up to cap and get it masterworked. And the reason why is that the ghosts can now slot in different modifiers. And so from a leveling perspective, I'm going to go ahead and apply this one, which costs 5, for an additional 10% XP while I'm playing. And then I can also see what else that I want to go ahead and apply to my ghost to see, just make everything a little bit more interesting. So if I just pick on this, generate gunsmith telemetry, perfect. I'll go ahead and take that. Now my ghost has 2 different modifiers attached to it. I'm going to go and lock him, and one of those happens to be a 10% EXP increase. So be sure to pay attention about your ghost now, because this is going to help feed you additional experience. If you're looking to level up fast and you do have the season pass, note that opening this treasure box is going to reward you with a massive amount of 20% experience boost on top of all of that. So there's a lot to kind of play around with, and hopefully this gives you a good taste for the game itself. There's so much that I would love to share. In fact, I already have in, again, other videos, but what I'm looking for, if you guys found this video helpful, or if you found, if you have any questions about this, this video or the game itself, let me know how I can help and kind of direct you. If you need, just message me in the comments or over on Discord, and we can hopefully get you situated and having a good time with this game itself. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up today, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a great day, and I hope to see you in my next video. But for Ginger Prime, my name's Brian. I hope to see you in my next video. But till then, take care. I don't know why I'm struggling with this ending, but it is what it is. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.